What's up guys, NoFumar here, and I'm going to do a brief product review of a recent device I acquired, my new cell phone, the Samsung Galaxy S4. And what I'm going to be doing is going over a couple things which are going to be listed right here, and those are size and the weight, the battery, the screen, the operating system, ease of use, camera, and the pros and cons. Now when I go through these, they aren't going to be the most technical descriptions. I'm not going to give you the exact numbers, the exact specifications. I'm just going to give you the general gist of things and what you should expect out of this phone. So first up is the size and the weight. Now this phone isn't really a big phone. It's not too huge. It fits comfortably in my hand. I do have big hands though. I do bowl. So then again, if you have really small hands, if you're something like Mickey Mouse or perhaps a cat, you might have issues holding onto this phone. But that doesn't mean it's not manageable. One thing I have noticed when holding on to it is without a case on, sometimes it would slide out of my hands, or if I was in bed it would shimmy along the covers and just keep falling down and I could never hold it up. And that was becoming somewhat of an issue. But for a brief size comparison, here is a piece of my transmission, just in case you guys were curious. But if that doesn't help you, here's a flash drive, and here is an Xbox game. So if that doesn't clear things up for you, I'm sorry. Next we move on to the battery. The battery is a lithium-ion 2600 milliamp hour battery. And what that means is you get a lot of bang for your buck. So for a casual user like me, I can usually get through the entire day. Casual textbook. Oh my god. Textbook. Wow. College. Anyway, casual Facebooking, texting, using things like Snapchat, iFunny, browsing Amazon and YouTube, you get a lot of bang for your buck. I've been using this phone almost all day since noon. I unplugged it, and I'm right around 80%. I did have it charging for a couple of seconds. I had to take some files off, so I docked about 6%. But regardless, this battery is absolutely fantastic for this phone. I can get pretty much a day, sometimes even a day and a half too, depending on how much I use it. If I'm just using basic texting, I'm pretty sure I could push 2.5 days out of it. But the battery in this phone does a really great job, and I'm really impressed with the battery life I can get out of it. So moving on to the screen, we have a 5-inch diagonal 1920 by 1080p screen. And quite surprisingly, it's actually very good. Moving from this phone after my previous iPhone, I found that just the quality is absolutely blazingly good. Things like Facebook, pictures, they just look absolutely beautiful, and the screen swiping is almost fluid as possible. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad on the camera there, but just the absolute quality. Watching YouTube videos in HD, it's so stunning. I have no idea what video I'm loading. I don't even care, but it's some dude, I have no idea. Whatever, we're just going to randomly go through, and the quality of this video is just astounding. Even viewing things like my own photos or my own videos, it just looks great. It's also capacitive touch, meaning you can, as long as you've got conductivity, it'll work. They do have a special feature, which I'm going to try and find here really quickly. Settings, if you go to the display, if I can find it, my device display, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you get this really cool option called increased touch sensitivity. And that basically means if you have gloves on, let's say you're out working in the yard shoveling snow out of your driveway, because we live in the middle of nowhere and it snows about 20 feet a day. But anyway, if you have gloves on, you can scroll through and select things. It is a little bit harder. I have tried it before. Let me get a glove on here. So I've got a glove on now, and I'm going to turn the option on, and then I'm going to see if I can scroll using my glove. And as you can see, with certain materials of gloves, it doesn't really work perfectly. But if I were to say, you know, take a material, if I can find one, well, unfortunately I don't have something like a glove, but if I've got something like a t-shirt, it works perfectly fine. The glove material that I have isn't the best, but this material works great. So I definitely give this screen an amazing review. The ability to use touch sensitivity really is an awesome factor, especially if you're using gloves, if you're out in the work field, if you're skiing or snowboarding or something. Certain materials might not work, but it's still an awesome feature to have. The contrast and images on here is perfect. I think Samsung did a great job. The only one complaint I have about it is, though, that sometimes the blacks don't show up perfectly. Sometimes when scrolling through menus, you can get a little bit of a ghosting effect. I'm not sure if you can see it there, but sometimes it shows up, and it's just a little thing to nick off, but I don't think it's enough to downgrade this screen even more. This is a nearly perfect screen. So now we're going to take a look at the operating system. The operating system is Android. I'm on Android 4.3.2, which is the latest and greatest. It's amazing. I love things that you can use, such as home screen widgets, things like drop-down menus, being able to toggle different toggles in the notification center, and even lock screen widgets, excuse me. And I think that's just a fantastic ease of use. You can just scroll down from things and check out on-screen information very easily, such as weather, what network you're connected to, any alarms you have later in the day. It's just fantastic, and I love it. The Google Play Store is flawless. I love your ability to look for random things, like I'm looking here for printer specs. Well, who the heck is going to have printer specs? But anyway, the Google Play Store is evolving. More and more people are switching to Android, which is a good choice. I love Android. A couple things that don't necessarily I enjoy from Android operating system is the calendar and the email. The calendar and the email don't work amazingly well. They are pretty good, but sometimes I get some flaws and some bugs with them. Opening emails, trying to forward them, it takes a long time to set up as opposed to on my iPhone. But you can do things so easily. You can end all your apps. You can clear out your memory, make the phone faster. It was a little upsetting I couldn't use all of my 2 gigs. I get about 1 gig of memory free to use. And that's you know, enough. You really aren't going to use more than probably 500 megs of memory. I remember back in the day when you had flash drives, for Pete's sake, that were like 60 megabytes or something. But the operating system is really fluid. It's really great, even though Samsung does have some cheesy add-ons like Smart Stay, Smart Stay, Hover View, Smart Scroll, Smart Pause. They're really innovative and really interesting. However, I don't think I'm really going to ever have a practical use for most of them. The camera works great in the operating system, good integration, good overall use. The browsers work great. I love the ability to download certain apps and use them even if it's not stock with Android, such as keyboards and notifications. Rooting the device is always an option, but I haven't had a need for that, surprisingly, after coming from always using a jailbroken iPhone. But I have no need to root this, as it gives me a lot of really great flexibility and customization wise, much more so than Apple. That's one thing I do have to dock Apple for, is it's very simple. You can't really customize it a lot. So if you're a simple, easy person, you don't really want to get too techy with your phone, Apple's the way to go. However, Android just exceeds it in so many ways. It's so intuitive, so new. It's open. It's an open source operating system, so many people can take advantage of it and use it for its full benefits, and it's just a great operating system. I love it. It works really, really well with me, your average teenage kid. Just got an email there, but I'm not gonna look at it for you guys. Who knows what it might be, top secret government issues. It's just from my mom. Maybe it is top secret, who knows. So now we're going to talk about ease of use of the phone. I find it fits really well in my hand. I do have big hands, however, I can generally reach all the way across, scroll. I don't have really an issue. The text is nice and big on the screen. One thing that I would like to point out is the charger is down here on the bottom. So whenever I've got the charger plugged in, and I'm trying to, let's say I'm sitting in bed reading something, it gets a little awkward and hard to hold it at some angles because the charger cable gets in the way and it doesn't want to bend out of the direction or out of the way. So I think maybe if they would have put it on the side, it would have been easier. Some people enjoy using their phone in a landscape view. I'm not one of those people. I enjoy looking at things simply, nice portrait, and we're all happy. Another thing that I have a huge beef about, absolutely huge, hate this about this phone, is the speaker placement. And the speaker is located on the back. And I don't know about you, but anytime I'm ever watching a video or I'm checking something out, I have my phone flat. It's on the table or it's on my bed or something, or I've even got, it cupped here behind my hands. And my fingers get in the way of the speakers. The quality of the audio decreases a lot when it's flat against the surface. I think that was a serious design flaw by Samsung. Can't blame them too much, but that is definitely something to be considered. The audio is okay. You know, you're not going to get great audio out of a small speaker. It's just the fact of science and how frequencies work and how you can get good quality audio. You need a big diaphragm and a big magnet, and you just don't get the greatest audio quality. However, on the Galaxy S4, it's really not all too bad. I've heard better, I've heard worse. It definitely beats my iPhone speakers, but the iPhone did have the speakers at the bottom, and that was a huge plus. So I definitely really enjoyed that, the speaker placement for the iPhone over the Galaxy S4. I think it was a big mistake. But other than that, using this phone as a day phone is just absolutely easy. Very, very fluid, very easy to use. I've never had any complaints really with the size or pushing it in and out of my pocket. Just a really, really easy phone to use for every day. Now we're going to take a look at the camera. The camera is 13 megapixels. You can get some really great dimensions out of it. I might as well show you the camera here. Right here it's got a flash beneath it. Here's the camera. Excuse me. You can get full 1080p videos at 30 frames a second out of it. The front-facing camera, which is located here, is a 2 megapixel camera. If you're into Snapchatting or Skyping, you can get decent quality out of it. It's not going to be the greatest, obviously, if you can only get 2 megapixels. But megapixels isn't always quality. What generates your quality is the light sensor, or the sensor itself. And the sensor in this camera I find is really, really beautiful. I'm going to include some images here in a second and some video I took. And you can just see that the quality is pretty darn good looking at some of these pictures. And a little bit of video here at the end. It does great with lots of light, mediocre and low light, but I'm generally not taking pictures in caverns or something silly like that. But the camera is great if you need to take a quick photo at a sporting event or a family member, and you're just not going to have too many issues with it. It's really easy to use, and it's got some great features. Now they also, on this phone, have some really, really interesting modes that you can use. You can have auto, there's night, sports, panorama, eraser, rich tone, animated photo, drama, sound and shot, best face, best photo, beauty face. For the most part, I just use auto. It chooses the best one for me, and generally I'm not that into how good my photo has to look. If I'm taking a photo with my phone as opposed to my camera, it's generally not too important of a photo. Although some of the modes are really cool, like action shot and sport mode. Some of them are really, really interesting, and I love panoramas that this phone can take. Finally, we're going to look at the pros and cons of this phone. A couple of the pros are the operating system, the battery life, and just the ease of use of the phone. I love this over my iPhone. I wouldn't go back to Apple anytime soon. It's just a really, really great, smart, simple phone. I am a bit of a techie, so I do know a couple things here or there. You know, you can go into the CPU speed, you can go into the RAM that it has, and that's all fine and dandy, but I mean, does it really matter? Does it really make a difference? I've found that in most phones, you really don't, people give you a lot more than you actually use. Is the average day person going to really fully grasp the potential of this phone? Honestly, I don't believe so. I think there are many things out there that claim that they use the full extent of the power of this phone, and for the most part, we can't really see 1080p by 1920 by 1080p. It really doesn't become a factor until you get to a screen size such as 32 inches. Granted, it does give you more dots per inch and it gives you greater pixel density. However, I just don't notice that big of a difference, and I've got some pretty darn good eyes. But that's not to argue with all the people out there who think this is an amazing phone, or an amazing screen rather. Another pro is the ability to just download tons and tons and tons of apps and use them at your dismay. You can just, there's an app for everything out there pretty much. There's becoming more and more and more Android phones on the market, more and more apps on the Android Google Play Store. Let's say I wanted, let's just think of a random app. Let's do groceries. If I type in groceries, I know this is a very general term, but you can get things like grocery list. It just, the apps are never ending. If I want to look up, let's do something really weird. Let's do printer specs. Why not? Printer specs. I can't spell. Specs. We're going to look something up, and you can get, it's very intuitive. It figures out what you might be trying to look for. Let's say you had no idea, but Canon mobile printing, things like that. Another pro that I really like is the ability to install apps that can take over the phone and make it do more, make it do better. In Apple, generally you had to jailbreak your iPhone, and I was a firm user of jailbreaking my device because it just unlocked and it made it so much better. Here I can do things like install custom keyboards. You saw back here I was using something that isn't the stock Android keyboard. I actually use something called SwiftKey, and it's really great. It takes over the keyboard, which I'm going to talk about in a second when I get back to the cons. But overall, I think you've heard most of my pros that I feel about this device, and now let's go on to the cons. So one of the cons that I talked about earlier was the speaker placement. I can't get over this. That's just such a damper for me. I really, really wish they would have improved that. Hopefully in the future they fix the placement of the speaker. Another issue, again, I talked about was the location of where the charging goes. It's just a personal preference. It doesn't have to be a make or break deal in the future. One thing that I really didn't like was the stock keyboard that came with the phone. It doesn't autocorrect, and that was just... I couldn't live without it. I wasn't having it, so I had to go download a keyboard, and it worked flawlessly after that. And again, that is one thing that I love about Android. You can download things like that change over the software of the phone. A couple more cons I've described earlier. One was the latency in some of the menu browsing. Sometimes you get, especially with blacks, it's funny how the blacks work on this phone. It's actually the pixels get turned off. And I think when you've got something moving really, really quickly, it's hard for the processor to realize that the pixel is going from on to off very, very quickly, and you get a little bit of a blurring mirage mirror effect. There are some fixes for that, and I did get this phone right as it came out, so it might be a display issue, but it's not enough for me to say, whoa, this phone is, it's really busted here. So another con that I've had with this phone, and I'm sure it's not going to work now because I'm trying to make it do it, is sometimes when I'm unplugging my phone from the charger, it all of a sudden decides to get really, really latent, and it takes a long time for it to turn on. So I guarantee you it's not going to work here, but we're going to try it anyway. So I'm going to unplug it, and of course it didn't work there, but sometimes it takes 5 seconds for the screen to turn on and recognize. I have had some issues where I hit standby and then turn it back on and it takes a couple seconds like that. It wasn't immediate, but patience is a virtue in life. So to review this phone before my camera battery dies, I would rate it probably 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's a great phone. It does the job. It's absolutely handy. I never go anywhere without it. The operating system is just so intuitive, so amazing. It's a really great device, and just your bang for your buck is absolutely fantastic. I prefer it over Apple. I would recommend it to a lot of people. The operating system is great. The battery life is amazing. The screen is beautiful, and it's just an easy to use phone. Nice, small, and relatively lightweight. So I would definitely recommend this to anybody, family, friends, enemies of enemies, whatever it takes to get this phone out there. That ends this product review. If you'd like me to review other products, I have tablets, iPods, Xboxes. Just let me know and I will do my best. So for right now, NoFumar, signing off.